Okay, bear with me for a moment. Because of his own poor editing, the objection is partly in between videos, in between conversions between videos. So I have to go to the other video as soon as I play this. 5 seconds left of this one.
Interjection 1. This passage contains proclamations in order.
You see, yeah.
Jew would not make, such as Jesus being the Christ. Answer. In other translations, Greek and Arabic, the suspicious statements contain disclaimers such as Jesus who was believed to be the Christ and it has been reported. This presents the theory that Josephus was recording the beliefs regarding Jesus and not necessarily his personal opinion, as a responsible historian should do. If anything, it could lead to the speculation that Christian authors did not add to the text, but rather edited it by deleting the disclaimers. You should also realize that the earliest versions of Antiquities contain this passage as it is presented in the first case. The objection usually is that the earliest copy is not until the 10th century. However, we do have several citations of this passage by other authors prior to the 10th century.
Okay, it's not just that. If you've actually read the whole thing, he does. But there's a lot that seems to be favorable, and so we have lots of reasons to think that this whole passage is an interpolation. Let's go on.
Skeptic interjection 2. Early Christian authors like Origen and Justin Martyr do not mention this passage in their writings. Answer. I'm not sure what the motive behind this objection is, because Origen does reference the other passage by Josephus, yet critics claim the reference is too late to be reliable. But, for the argument's sake, if we assume this passage did exist in the form most scholars believe it did, the early church fathers might not have felt the need to refer to it. The original passage serves as evidence for the historicity of Jesus, a topic not debated at this point, as the burden of proof revolved around his divinity.
Okay, so he's still begging the question here, but okay, it's under the now. If you'd objected to Justin Martyr, I would agree with that. Justin Martyr, we have no reason to presume that he actually had sufficient knowledge of the works of Josephus. Origen, however, we know that he quoted from him quite often when debating with Jews, and so not quoting from this passage on Josephus, it doesn't make any sense. Even with those favorable, even with if he quoted it with the supposed warnings, and of course those warnings came in the Arabic version, and not the original version. Did you catch that the first time? The Arabic version was most likely these injections because basically it was a paraphrasing of from what they know. But likewise, Origen, he should have known this passage, and considering how it was, there's just no reason for him not to use it. Now he's talking about the other passage, the passage to which is not disputed. But in a moment we'll see this is quite a fatal flaw that shows that not only Origen was reaching for evidence, but anybody who actually knows about this passage as well would completely facepalm. So let's go on.
Fortunately, it is not surrounded in as much controversy. It says, So Aeneas assembled a council of judges, and brought before it the brother of Jesus, the so-called Christ, whose name was James, together with some others, and having accused them as lawbreakers, he delivered them over to be stoned. Skeptic interjection 1. Is it possible this passage was a forgery by early Christians? Answer. It must be noted that no copy of Antiquities has ever surfaced without the above text quoted as it is above. Critics are suspicious of the so-called Christ statement, yet this reference, rather than the Christ, shows Josephus was not condoning the belief, but simply documenting it. Also, this passage concerns the actions of the priest Aeneas, Jesus and James were not even the primary focus of this verse. Lastly, this passage is cited in other early works which attest to its authenticity. Even if we dismiss the disputed works in Josephus' testimonium, we still see he testifies to a number of things in the above two passages. One, that Jesus lived in the first century. He performed miracles. Some believe Jesus to be the Christ.
Wait. In that passage, there is nothing about miracles. Nothing. Nothing about him dying. Nothing of him having being followed in that passage. And this is the critical error. If we actually read on that section, of course, Aeneas, ends up killing James, Jesus' brother. But it also says that Jesus was the son of Demeas, and that he later replaced Annas as chief priest. Do anybody remember that part in the Gospels? No. That's because he's not talking about the Jesus Christ from Nazareth. It's not the Jesus Christ that was crucified. Again, Jesus and James are quite frequent names. So, James being a brother of Jesus, who is called anointed, therefore Christ. That's because that's what Christ means. It means anointed. So that could be a title, and it's also a title given unto chief priests. So, nothing about Jesus. That's why this passage is not disputed, because it's not talking about that particular man that we're discussing right now. Let's talk a little about Josephus. Now, Josephus, if Jesus did exist, he's exactly the man we should expect to write about Jesus. Now, Jesus was, of course, a Messiah figure, and that was also within the ballpark of Josephus. Josephus written about many other messiahs, but he also done so with negative connotation. He also written more about those messiahs, more than just a single paragraph about them. So we get a single paragraph about Jesus in between one talking about Pilate and another talking about the Jews having a ruckus in Rome in the Temple of Isis. It just seems a little out of place. So naturally, that would seem that's the strongest argument of all. To put it in where Pilate is, and it's too favorable. It seems out of place. It's out of character for Josephus. So if he viewed him any more than favorably at all, then why he spoke about Jesus the least, and more about the unnamed Egyptian man or Thais. He talked about these Messiah figures more and in darker light, quite vehemently. He blames all these Messiahs in Judea as the reason why Jerusalem fell. So he doesn't look upon these people with favorably at all. So it's quite a question why that Josephus doesn't talk about Jesus more.